Hey there, it's Ryan from All4 Foods. Today I'm going to talk with you a little bit about nettle root extracts. I'm going to talk about the nettle root testosterone estrogen connection. Then I'm also going to talk about the nettle root DHT hair loss, hair regrowth connection. So a lot of interesting things. The reason why I'm sharing with you today about nettle root is because I'm really pleased and I'm really excited to offer our newest product. We've been working on this for a while. Now this is a pure nettle root extract powder, so there's nothing in here except for 100% pure nettle root extract. This is important because nettle root actually has a very, very low concentration of the active compounds that are going to award you with all the benefits we're going to talk about today. So you really need to look for a high quality extract. You have to look for something that's standardized, so it's not just a ratio here, but something that's actually identified the active constituents and have concentrated those constituents. So in nettle root, what you're looking for is something called beta-sitosterol. Now a sterol, as we know, is a plant hormone, like a plant steroid. That's why it's called a sterol. And the one we're looking for here is called beta-sitosterol. Very, very small concentration in the whole herb, so you need to concentrate it and standardize it so you know that you're getting a clinically significant dose of those active constituents. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is we're going to talk about the nettle root testosterone estrogen connection. This is important for a few different reasons. It's important, one, because we're going to talk about free testosterone, which is active testosterone. Then we're also going to talk about the link between testosterone and certain cancers like prostate cancer. So before we get into actually the process that's happening here, let's talk real quick about free testosterone and why that matters. Free testosterone is the type of testosterone that is active in the body. So whenever you hear the word free testosterone, just think to yourself active testosterone, because that's what we're really talking about, testosterone that's active. When it's no longer free, it's no longer active. And when it's no longer active, it can't do all those beneficial things in your body that we know testosterone to do. So we want to keep it free. Now, in the healthy, normal body, you have about 2% free testosterone. The rest has been arrested. It's been locked up. And it gets locked up by something called sex hormone binding globulin, which you see abbreviated a lot of the time as just a SHBG, but we'll just call it sex hormone binding globulin here so we don't get too confusing. So you have testosterone, you have sex hormone binding globulin, and what this does is it goes up and it kind of just grabs on to the testosterone, then it's no longer free. So that's going to really drastically lower your levels of active testosterone. If you're losing 98% of your total testosterone to sex hormone binding globulin, it's leaving you with a very, very tiny amount. So what nettle root does is nettle root, the beta-sitosterols in nettle root have a really high affinity for sex hormone binding globulin. It loves sex hormone binding globulin, so it outcompetes testosterone and it gets stuck in there. Then the sex hormone binding globulin has no more room for testosterone. So it is going to free up a lot of the testosterone because you're losing 98% of your testosterone to sex hormone binding globulin, but then when you introduce nettle root, the sex hormone binding globulin is full. It doesn't go out, it doesn't feel like going out and finding some testosterone to eat up because it's totally satisfied with the nettle root. In fact, nettle root likes sex hormone binding globulin so much that it's going to kind of get in the way of testosterone that's already been locked up in the sex hormone binding globulin and push out that testosterone that's already been arrested. So it's going to block new testosterone from being lost, and it's going to unlock testosterone that's already been lost. So benefit number one, it's going to boost those testosterone levels by blocking sex hormone binding globulin. But if you remember, I started this off by saying we're going to talk about the nettle root testosterone estrogen connection. So how does estrogen fit into this? It fits into this because after testosterone has been locked up by sex hormone binding globulin, it goes through this process called aromatization, which happens because of an enzyme called aromatase. What aromatase does is it converts that testosterone that's been locked up by sex hormone binding globulin, it converts it into estradiol and a couple other estrogen metabolites. Now, when you hear of people getting prostate cancer because they have high levels of testosterone, they're getting prostate cancer because they've lost a lot of that testosterone to sex hormone binding globulin, which has turned it into estradiol. So nettle root blocks that process from happening because if you remember, nettle root's getting into that sex hormone binding globulin is not allowing testosterone. So testosterone cannot get converted then into estradiol. Nettle is a benign substance when it's locked up into sex hormone binding globulin, so it's not as if the nettle root then is going to be turned into estradiol. You're just blocking that process from happening. So you're elevating testosterone, you're blocking testosterone from being turned into estradiol, which is a bad thing. So that's really the brief overview of the nettle root, testosterone, estrogen continuum here. The other thing that's interesting about nettle root for our purpose here is how it works with DHT. Now DHT is, think of it as supercharged testosterone. A lot of people are even thinking now of testosterone only as a prohormone, so a hormone that exists only for the benefit of the creation of another hormone, a prohormone for DHT. DHT is the supercharged form of testosterone. It can lead to some prostate problems, and it can lead to hair loss. Really only one type of hair loss, which is called androgenic alopecia. Alopecia is a generic term to refer to any type of hair loss. When you attach the word androgenic to it, it's just meaning that the alopecia, the hair loss, is happening because of androgen hormones. Those androgen hormones really is just DHT. So conventional therapies for both of these, for hair loss and also for prostate enlargement, is to block the conversion of testosterone to DHT, which in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, is an exceptionally bad idea because DHT is that exceptionally active form of testosterone, so you don't want to block it. But what we can do with nettle root is we can block the DHT from finding the receptors in the scalp and also in the prostate. So the scalp and the prostate have a very, very high level of these DHT receptors. So if you remember from biology class, all cells have these different hormone receptors, and the ones in the scalp and the prostate have lots of the DHT receptors. The active compounds in nettle root, so that beta-sitosterol, is going to find those receptors and it's going to block them. So it's going to keep the DHT out of the scalp and out of the prostate, which is going to reverse both of those, both of the androgenic alopecia and the prostate enlargement. So that's a brief overview of the nettle root, DHT, hair loss, hair regrowth connection. I love taking this nettle root powdered extract. You know that you're getting a clinically significant dose of the active compounds. It has a great, very earthy flavor to it. It's not bitter like a lot of the herbs that are great for your hormonal system. A lot of them are very bitter. Nettle root just has a very earthy flavor to it. It combines exceptionally well with anything that's a little bit roasted. If you're a coffee drinker, I think you could go ahead and put a teaspoon of this into your coffee. If you're doing coffee twice a day, do this twice a day because you really want 2 doses, one in the morning, one in the mid-afternoon or early evening. If you're doing some other type of roasted drink, like I do a lot of Dandy Blend, which is a dandelion root extract, kind of a coffee alternative, combine it in with that. If you're doing a smoothie, anything like that, and combine it with that, really it has an earthy flavor that goes with a lot of different things. It's also easily overpowered, so if you add it to something, you're not going to ruin it with a very bitter flavor. If you have any questions about nettle root, or if you have any questions about things like the aromatization process, what's happening with sex hormone binding globulin, how DHT is connected with alopecia, and I didn't answer them in this video, just leave us a comment here. These are some of the things that are most interesting to me as an herbalist, is how plants can be used to really optimize and manipulate the body in terms of endocrine health and really maximizing endocrine health. I hope you found this informational. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and ask them. The nettle root is live on our site. We just launched it yesterday. We're incredibly excited about it. We find nettle root one of the most important herbs for anyone that's thinking about declining levels of testosterone, elevating already elevated levels of estrogen and trying to reduce that. Anyone that's taking any type of androgenic herb, so if that's something like pine pollen, which contains androgen hormones, Sustantia tuberosa, Tongkat Ali, something like that that's gonna increase the body's own production of testosterone. Or if you just naturally have high testosterone, you want to be combining that 100% of the time with nettle root extract, because you have to prevent that testosterone from being converted into estradiol. So whenever you're manipulating your androgen levels, you gotta combine it with nettle root. It's incredibly important. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Get back to us with any questions or comments, and have an awesome day.